Linear equations have equal signs and they have one or two variables in the equation. Let's use desmos to get a visual of what these equations look like when they're graphed. The first one is x equals 0. If I highlight this equation, what happens is the y-axis is highlighted. X equals 0 is the y-axis. Now, if we change the constant or the right side of the equation to be positive, the vertical line moves to the right. Notice that the x value right here is always equal to 7, or the x value right here is always equal to 5. That is a vertical line. Now, how about y is equal to 0? Y is equal to 0 is the x-axis, and you can see that by the red line here getting highlighted. That's a horizontal line, and if we make it more positive, it'll move up, and negative, it will move down. But it stays a horizontal line. When we see y is equal to 1, think that the y values are always equal to 1 for every x value. And it goes on forever and ever. X values can be anything. If I highlight the third one, we see we have a little bit of a slant. And the slant is a negative rate of change. Why? Because it's going down from that vertical line in the center from the y-axis. Just by looking at the equation, we can't really see a pattern. But if we can graph this equation, we can start to see a pattern. There's a constant change. It's a decreasing constant change. Now, the fourth one is very different than the third one. The slant isn't as great, but it's still a negative slant. It's still a negative rate of change. The fifth one is very similar to the fourth one in terms of the rate of change or the slant, but the line appears to have moved. The sixth one has an x squared in it, and this one does not graph to be a line. We do not consider this to be a linear equation. The seventh one, not a linear equation. The eighth one, not a linear equation. And finally, the ninth one, not a linear equation. Linear equations make straight lines. Here's a quick summary of linear versus non-linear equations. Keep in mind you need to have an equal sign. You need to have at least one variable, could be two. We need the exponents of the x and y or any variables to be 1. And that means if we have x to the half, that would not be linear. Y is equal to 1 over x is included in the non-linear section because this equation can also be written with the -1 exponent. I have one last question to ask, and that is, where should x times y equals 5 go? To solve for y here, we need to realize that x is being multiplied by y on the left side. The opposite of multiply is divide. We have y is equal to 5 over x, or y is equal to 5 times x to the -1, which is very similar to this equation. Therefore, x times y equals 5 is nonlinear. Try desmos. Plug it in and see what graph results.